Hi, welcome back to Let's Talk About Race, the show where we like to do away with yelling and headlines in favor of having in-depth discussions on the nuance of race in this country. So the next two episodes are both going to be on the topic of Native Americans. Given the current exposure coming out of the recent name change for the Washington football team, I really wanted to get some perspectives from Native Americans themselves on the use of mascoting in American sports, both in logos and in names. And I actually came across the grandson of the man who designed the logo for the team in the 70s, who was a member of the Blackfeet tribal nation. I'm honored to get a chance to hear his perspective. However, I also want to be conscious of the diversity of both people and opinions within the umbrella term Native American, as well as to not overshadow many issues that Native Americans face by only focusing on a sports team name change. For this reason, I decided to have a broader conversation on the issues that tribal nations face in a conversation with the president of the National Congress of American Indians, Ms. Fawn Sharp, whose interview will air in the next episode. With that context, I'd like to present to you my next guest, Donnie Wetzel, a member of the Blackfeet tribal nation and grandson to Blackfeet leader and activist Walter Blackie Wetzel, the designer of the Two Guns White Calf logo that was recently retired alongside the Redskins name for the Washington football team. Donnie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So I actually learned through your cousin, I was reading a piece about Walter Blackie Wetzel. And from my understanding of it, your grandfather actually designed the logo of the Two Guns White Calf, and he actually presented it to the team. Is that correct?
Yes, in the 1970s, early 70, 71.
Sure. Can you just give us a little bit of backstory there, like how that came to be?
My grandfather was a high-impact tribal leader at the national level as well as within our own Blackfeet Nation in Montana. And over the years, he had built some pretty strong relationships with various folks within the United States government, from John F. Kennedy to Mike Mansfield to many others. And I think as he started to move away from that in the early 70s, with civil rights movement and things like that happening, oftentimes our American Indians are not even involved in those discussions too much. And he took the opportunity to approach the Washington football team's front office. And what I've heard is he had relationships throughout DC that kind of led him to be able to do such a thing. And he brought in the imagery that is on the helmet and said, take the R off and put this on. It's a strong Blackfeet warrior.
Yeah, and so the logo is your grandfather itself, or it's a different individual?
No, the logo is of Chief Two Guns White Calf, which was a Blackfeet chief, the son of our last war chief from the 1800s. That his father, Two Guns White Calf's father, actually died in Washington, D.C. in 1903, fighting with the federal government to fulfill treaty obligations and dealing with land issues.
And from my understanding, the Redskins name existed long before the logo. I think goes all the way back to the 30s. And then the logo you said it presented was in 71. It seems your family, and I don't know how much you are able to speak on the Blackfeet tribe, but are actually a little bit sad to see the logo go. And it seems that's separate from the name. Is that correct?
Yeah, it just depends on who you talk to. But I think the overall feel of that logo, the term was around, I think that team name has been around for 80 plus years. And of course the word changes over time, but it used to just kind of lump all of our tribal nations up into one. And that's not right. Every tribe is very unique and they have their own languages and cultures. And so that is a Blackfeet on there. So many of our folks in Indian country and in the Blackfeet Nation pretty much understand that, and they can have their thoughts on it, and it's all good. Everyone has their opinion, and it isn't anything that we want to separate. But I think for the most part, it was always understood that's a Blackfeet chief on the helmet.